From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse podcast. I'm Jason Tanoory, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo! Welcome back to the Lighthouse podcast, and it's a beautiful Thursday morning in upstate New York, January 2nd. I am in my office looking out my window, and there's lots of snow on the ground. And, you know, when I was a kid, I loved the snow because I was outside sledding. I was doing a little bit of skiing in my youth. And as pretty as the snow is, as I get older, it gets old, right? And I love white Christmases. I love the snow for that reason. But winter for me could be like 7 days. And then let's jump into spring. So with that mindset, maybe it's time to consider relocating to another area of the country. Although that would be difficult with me still having 2 of my 5 kids at home and still have 5 more years till they graduate from high school. So it's more of a pipe dream, and I digress. I want to talk to you guys today about goal setting. You know, everybody's talking about goals, and everybody's talking about like New Year's resolutions and, you know, all of this stuff. And I think there's a lot of ways to be unsuccessful with resolutions and goals. And then there's a couple ways to be successful. And I'm certainly not suggesting that my way is the best way or my way is the only way. But I do feel that my way, or a way that I've developed based on just reading and experiences, talking to other people, has some merit. So if you are struggling with goal setting and execution, then this might be a framework for you to consider. And for more of a deep dive on these types of concepts, there's 2 people specifically that have been huge resources for me. James Clear, through his blog, his books, and newsletters, best known for his amazing book, Atomic Habits, and Pastor Craig Groeschel, who has been very influential in my life. And specifically, a couple of books that he's written that have been very instrumental to me are The Power to Change and Think Ahead, his newest book. So anyways, just a real quick rubric framework on goal setting. And I'm going to use just a couple of very specific examples in my own life to maybe hammer the point home. You know, these goals should not be your goals, but I do feel like giving examples of goals can sometimes allow the listener a little bit more context on how best to do it. So the first thing I think you need to think about is the big idea, right? So what is the big idea that you have? What is the big thing that you're trying to accomplish? And it could be something based in health. It could be something based in finances. It could be something based in relationships. It could be something based in whatever you're trying to accomplish. So the first example I'm going to give you is a big idea for us that's based in finances, based in financial goals. And the big idea is this concept of irrational generosity. Now, irrational generosity for me is going to be something very different than irrational generosity for you. But the big idea that I'm trying to set forth is irrational generosity. So once you have the big idea, then I like to define who this person is, right? So who do I need to identify as? Who do I need to become to be someone that's full of irrational generosity. So I just have this documented here. I will become irrationally generous. Kara, my wife, and I are stewards of all the resources God has blessed us with, and we will be irrationally generous with these resources in an attempt to bless those who are in need. So that's who I'm trying to become. And I think identity is so important here, because when it gets hard, when you are tired, when you're looking for another shiny silver object to chase, you always should come back to your identity, and you should always come back to, this is who I am trying to become. I am trying to become irrationally generous. Kara and I are trying to become amazing stewards of all the resources that God has given us. And this is what ultimately will keep you going. This is what ultimately will keep the momentum going. So again, the big idea is irrational generosity. Who do I need to become in order for that big idea to come to fruition? And then the next question that I think you need to answer is why? Why is this important to you? Why is this a goal? And you have to brainstorm this, ideally with your significant other, with really close friends and families or advisors. So in this specific example, the why for me is we have plenty and are reaching a point in our lives where stuff just doesn't move the needle for us anymore. Our cup is overflowing. We want to make a difference in other people's lives with what God has blessed us with. We also want to set a great example for our children and our friends and the community that becoming great stewards of God's resources is exponentially more fulfilling than the consumption of stuff. Okay? So that's our why. So again, the big idea is we want to have irrational generosity. Who do we need to become to make that come to fruition? Why is this important? Okay. So those are more like theoretical at a high level, right? Now we need to get into the weeds. And this is where shit starts to happen. So we've talked about the big idea. We've talked about who we need to become. We've talked about why we're doing this. The next one is what. Another way to look at it is what is the win that they're striving for? You know, when we talk about health, everyone always talks about losing weight. I shouldn't say everybody, but a majority of people talk about losing weight. So their what is 10 or 15 or 20 pounds. And again, the what is important. But if you put the what before the big idea, before who you are trying to become, and before why you are trying to become this person, I can assure you that the what will fall flat. And when things get tough, you will look for another big idea. You will pivot, because it's easy to pivot when things get hard. So what is the what for us? So for us, it's we will give $1,000 a week to a person, charity, or organization in need. So that's a very specific, objective what? That's a very specific, objective win every week. So it's time stamped. We will give $1,000. So there's an amount, and to a person, charity, or organization in need. Again, very black and white. No ambiguity there. So I think that the when or the what is very, very important to define. And then the most important part is the how. And this goes back to all of the things that we've talked about with the only two resources that we really have are our time, our attention, and our money. So where are you spending your time? And where are you spending your money? And more specifically with time, we've talked about the ideal week calendar. I hope and pray that you have adopted some semblance of an ideal week calendar. I have podcast recordings that you can go back to in reference of an ideal week calendar. But where we all run into a lot of problems is we have these big, grandiose ideas, and oh my gosh, it would be so cool to donate this amount of money every week. Or, oh my gosh, it would be so cool to be in a bodybuilding show, or to expand my business, or to double down on my relationship with my wife and my kids. Great. Those are all awesome ideas. Those are those really big ideas, right? But time is a finite commodity. And if you just assume that these things are going to happen, but you don't specifically schedule yourself to do the granular tactical work to make these things happen, then I can promise you they will not happen. So in this particular situation, this big idea of irrational generosity and the specific win or what I'm trying to accomplish is giving $1,000 a week to a person, a charity organization in need. How do we specifically do that? Well, the first thing that I have on my list is we will revamp our personal budget and determine how to live on less. So for that to happen, I need to dedicate a certain amount of time, not a lot, but I need to dedicate probably 30 minutes a week to dialing in our budget, to making sure that all of the things that we are spending money on are needed, making sure that I have a zero-sum budget in place. It's a Dave Ramsey concept. Feel free to dive into that. And making sure that expenses are not occurring that I'm not aware of. When I have, 5 kids and a significant other, there's a lot of money going in and out. And if I'm not completely on top of that, then I'm not going to be able to accomplish this win. So that's the first thing. The second thing is monitor accounts every week to make sure waste and unneeded expenses are removed, kind of similar to what I just talked about before. So I need to revamp our personal budget so we can live on less. I need to monitor accounts every week to make sure that there's not unexpected expenses and waste. The third thing I need to do is to create ways to make more income. Now I'm blessed to have a lot of opportunities to do that. I can do that through work, through expanding the business. I can do it at work through trying to become more profitable. I can do it through coaching. I can do it through our podcast. There's ways to generate. I have multiple ways to generate more income. But again, it doesn't just happen if I speak it. I have to find time in my week to make it happen. So if I'm going to, for example, generate more revenue through coaching, then I need to find time throughout my week to make sure I have blocked out time to dedicate relationships to one-on-one coaching. I'm blessed to have a high demand for coaching. Right now, I don't have a lot of capacity for additional coaching clients, but if I can't figure out a way to accomplish my what, then I would have to consider removing some of the things from my ideal week to create time to take on additional coaching clients. Another part of my how is to this concept that I learned from Pastor Craig Rochelle of buy one, give one. So if I'm going to buy something, then automatically I'm going to buy another to give to someone else. And I think this does a lot of things. It helps me become a great steward for God's resources, but it also makes me pause and ask myself, do I really need this? Right? So if I'm on a website and I see a really cool sweatshirt with, as many of you guys know, I'm really into health and fitness, with a big barbell on it and weights and stuff, like, oh, that's really cool, I should buy that, right? I'm going to pause because I may not want to buy an additional one to give away. And again, I want to give away, and I ultimately want to go back to my what of donating $1,000 or giving $1,000 to a person, charity, or organization in need. But when I put these parameters on just these random purchases, it will help conserve resources for me so I can accomplish my win, my overarching goal, my what. And then the last one I have here is be intentional once a month at our family meeting with ideas on who needs these resources. So these are the hows. These are the things that I need to fit into my week to make sure what I want to happen, this big, hairy, audacious goal, BHAG, as many of you guys know, actually happens. And it's great to have big goals. It's great to have these big ideas, irrational generosity, but it always comes down to how we fit it in our calendar. And you guys have heard me say this before, but every time you say yes to something, you're automatically saying no to something else. So you cannot just take on additional responsibilities without your current responsibilities falling by the wayside. Now, if you are on your phone an inordinate amount of time, if you stream TV shows more than you really should be, then you can create a lot of time in your week that way. Even going from, say, watching an hour of TV per day to watching a half hour of TV per day. That half hour per day is a ton of time to accomplish some of these hows. But until you really take a audit of what you're spending your time on, then you can really never add tactical, granular tasks to your week without other things suffering. Let's go through another example. So the big idea, something along the lines of health. So again, I'll just go from my own example, but I'll try to make it a little bit more generic because I know you guys aren't terribly interested with my specific goals. But let's do something related to health. So the big idea could be healthier than many my age. I'm going to be 50 this year. So I want to be one of the healthiest 50-year-olds I know. I've also used the concept of a 10%er. I want to be one of the 10% most healthy people my age, or whatever the big idea is. Again, it's just a big theoretical idea. It's just something that you can keep coming back to, right? So that's the big grandiose idea, healthier than men my age, or a 10%er in terms of health and wellness. So who are you trying to become? I'm dedicated to becoming a person who makes all facets of their health a priority. We're talking about physical health, we're talking about emotional health, we're talking about spiritual health, and we're talking about mental health. At least that's what I'm talking about. So we've talked about the big idea. We've talked about who I need to become to make that come to fruition. Now, why is it important? Now, I'm just going to read for you this paragraph that's on my declaration, my daily declarations. I read these every day to keep them top of mind. So why is it important for me to become a 10%er in terms of health and wellness? I realize that my overall health is paramount for me to accomplish all that is needed in my life. I am making my health a top priority, as it will serve as a building block for me to accomplish great things in my life. I understand and realize that I do not have to be extreme in my health and wellness, as my goals are not aligned with accomplishments like Olympic medals, 7-day meditation retreats, Ironmans in Hawaii, or other unbelievable athletic and mental accomplishments. I simply need to be very healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, consistently, so I am ready to accomplish all that God has put in front of me. My body is a temple, and I need to fully dedicate it to that work. So that is my why, right? So again, that always grounds me. That brings me back to, what, do I need to be running a 4-minute mile for an Olympic gold medal? No, that's not my big goal. My big goal is just to become a 10%er in terms of health and wellness, one of the most fit people that I know, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So again, we have the big idea. We have who I need to become to accomplish that big idea. We have why it's important for me to become that person. Now we can get granular. So what is the win? What is the what? What objectively do I need to accomplish in 3 months, 6 months, timestamp it, like we've talked about, to have this goal come to fruition. So this is where you can get granular. This is where you can say, I will lose 10 pounds, or I will run a 5K, or I will meditate on a daily basis. Whatever the what is that's important to you, come through, line this up. I will do 75 hard. I will compete in a bodybuilding show, whatever it is. That what needs to be time stamped, and it needs to be objective. It really can't have any ambiguity. And again, people often start with the what And when they don't have the other things dialed in, when they don't have who they're trying to become, and when they don't have why they're trying to do this, then they lose steam on the what. And then most importantly, like I talked about earlier, is how. Again, we all have a finite amount of time in our week. Where are we going to put the granular tactical habits that need to be accomplished on a daily basis to make this happen? So things like journaling every day, or practicing your meditation, or meal prepping, or calorie counting, or exercising, or walking, or running, or all of these little daily habits that need to occur, again, following the 2-minute rule. And again, if you're not sure what the 2-minute rule is, just Google James Clear 2-minute rule. But even though it takes 2 minutes, it takes time. And if you are jam-packed in your ideal week and you don't have time to add these habits to it, then you either need to forget this idea, or probably more importantly, take a audit of what you're currently doing and realize that there's many things on your current calendar that are not necessarily a waste of time, but are not aligned with what you're trying to get out of life. And there's a litany of things that I can assure you that you're doing during your day that you could probably either delegate, forget about, or become more efficient at. For example, I've talked in depth about batching, right? So find the time to put in your day these habits, these hows, and then ultimately will lead to what's, or the wins. And you're going to be motivated and driven to continue to do this because of who you are trying to become and why you are trying to become that person. So again, very brief overview about how I have a framework of goal setting, but it's been extremely beneficial in my own life. I could talk for hours on getting granular with this stuff. And if any of you guys want to talk about that on a podcast episode, feel free to reach out and we can get on a call together. But I really, really think it's important to follow a framework similar to this in order to accomplish goals that you feel are important in your life. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions or concerns, if you want to get on a call, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information is on our website, dentallighthouse.com. Look forward to hearing from you, and have an amazing day. Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tanoory, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.